Hey guys, it's Mike with CEP TV, and today in our Buyer's Guide series, we're covering something called electrical. And everybody kind of understands that everything I plug in works off of it, maybe even have an electrical vehicle. But what you don't understand is when it comes to the pool industry, there are certain things that are going to cost you money that you should know up front before you get hit with them at the end. When it comes to electrical, first of all, you have to have it. If you've seen our low base price video, you understand that this is one of the things that these guys are pulling out so that they can get their low base price down there and sucker you in. But it's important to understand how the electrical works, so we're just going to take a few minutes and help you get an idea of what you might be looking at. When electrical is ran, they're coming off of your fuse panel. Typically here in North Texas, it's usually in the garage. Older homes, sometimes we've found it in the master bedroom, or some older homes, we actually see it just on the outside of the house, which is great. When these guys come in, they're gonna need at least one open space for a very basic pool, and I'm talking pump and lights, that's it. They're gonna need to put in about a 20 amp breaker to make sure that they can get that ran to where it needs to be and properly power. If you have anything more than that, especially like heaters and salt units, maybe you have Omni controllers or Aqualink controllers, those things are all going to require a little bit more space in the fuse panel. If they're trying to run everything off a 120 amp circuit, be afraid, be very afraid. If you open your fuse panel, this is how you see whether or not you actually have an empty space. If you have a black spot where you can switch it, that's used up. If you have a little square cover that's about the same size, that's an empty slot. Typically what we tell people is if you're not gonna have a heater, you need 2 open spots. If you are gonna have a heater, you need 4 open spots. What if you don't have them? No big deal. They're gonna install something that's called a sub panel, where they're taking and kind of jumping off of the panel that's there into its own panel, so they have the proper space to work in. The only thing you need to understand is that's gonna be a cost. So before you even call anybody up, you can open your own fuse panel and figure out, geez, I got enough slots or I don't. And if that's the case, or if you have an extremely low, like old fuse panel and there's mice crawling out of it, bugs crawling it, the chances are a good electrician's gonna say you're gonna need a sub panel anyway. We usually always include a sub panel unless it's fairly new, just for the safety of the house, for the safety of you, and for your pool equipment. So it's important to understand sub panels are not cheap. They're gonna cost anywhere, depending on the company, between $600 and $1,000. That's something that you need to be planning for in your budget for your pool if you don't have either a brand new house with some space or an older house with a great looking fuse panel and also some space. Having said that, you also need to understand how they're gonna run this. Typically, the electrician's gonna wanna run what we call an attic run, which means that they're gonna go off that panel or their sub panel, and they're gonna go up through your attic, come back down to wherever the pad is gonna be located on your house. Usually it's on a corner, and they're gonna come and they're gonna attic run over, they're gonna drill through the wall, they're gonna run it down. Sometimes they drill straight through the wall, but most of the time they're gonna drill it at the top, they're gonna run it down, and then from there we get all these gray cords, which we call whips. And that's what actually goes to all the equipment that you have. Another way that they're ran, if attic is not an option for one reason or another, is they're gonna do something called a conduit run or a foundation run. In this case, a good quality electrician is gonna make sure that looks real clean. Usually they're gonna attach it somewhere where the brick meets the foundation, and they're gonna have a nice clean look, but you will have that line running along your house from the panel to wherever it's gonna be. And that's fine. You already have that usually running with your air conditioner and things of that nature. So don't be alarmed about foundation runs. What you do need to understand is if for any reason you need to have your pad located away from the house, it's important to understand that's usually not included in the base price of an electrician. And when it comes to your contractor, they should be categorizing this right away and saying, oh, okay, you need to be over here. So there's gonna be a little extra cost on trenching over to that area. No sub panels or pool equipment can be mounted on fences. It's never a good idea. So chances are if you're gonna be up, say, near a fence, which sometimes works really well in the yard, they're gonna need to build what they call an H-frame. They're going to put basically some metal bars up, usually some sort of a panel on the front, and they'll attach all the equipment to that. That's going to be a permanent fixture, and it's not a big deal. If you're getting a big pool, then you also need to understand, if I want a pool in my yard, yes, I have to have something to run it. So plan for the bushes, plan for the fence, plan for the shed, whatever you want to do. It's just part of the process. So we don't want you to get frustrated. The electrical's got to go somewhere. Equally, the electrical cannot go somewhere where you can't get at it. In other words, it can't go directly behind the equipment. So you can't end up in a situation where you have, say, a 5-foot space on a wall, stick a pad there and have all your electrical right there. City's never going to pass it. It's got to be moved over at least far enough for you to be able to get at it. Another question that most people want answered is, yes, the electrician should always be putting out a GFI at your pad. Now, they're only required usually to put out one, and in no permit jobs, they're not necessarily required to, but a good electrician's going to do it, and a good pool contractor is going to make sure too. So you've got something usually right at the pad that you can plug into for any reason. These usually are where people are plugging in their maintenance pumps and things of this nature. So, having said that, it's just important to understand that one last final part of this is, if you're in a permit situation, in other words, you live in city limits, there's been a permit pulled for your job, then when the electrical is ran, that trench has to remain open until it's inspected. Typically, our installers are usually in there and out of there and gone before the electricians get there. And that being the case, we're going to have a certain amount left over. Maybe there's potholes left over in the trench that's there, something that the inspector can go and confirm that the electrical is buried 18 inches or deeper. Okay, those have to stay open, and with us, what we usually do is, when it comes time for pool school or sometime in between there when we do the pool clean out, we're going to then fill that back in. But just understand that even after the electrical is installed, you're going to have an open trench until usually you're closing up the pool and doing the final clean out and turning it over to you. That being the case, this kind of covers everything you need to know for electrical. If you have specific questions, make sure you check in and see. We're going to continue to post videos based on specific questions so that we can give you all the information you're looking for. But guys, we want to make sure that this dream doesn't become a nightmare. Check out this whole Buyer's Guide series. It's all going to cover important information for you as you have that dream installed in your yard. See you on the next one.